That's all good, bro. We just
Okay.
couldn't get in, so we weren't sure what the hell was
Yeah.
going on.
You know what? I think I got to figure this out. I have set up a master meeting thing on here, and
Yeah.
I think I went in and on another meeting that probably wasn't scheduled
Oh.
for tonight. So that was my bad.
Ah,
But
that's all good.
guys, what's
All right.
going on?
How
Go
do
ahead.
I show myself on here? Because do I press OK or
Yeah, just hit okay. It's just acknowledging that the
okay?
meeting's being recorded.
Yeah, because I'm the invisible man here. Oh, there we are.
Starving.
There, I'm visible again. Oh wow.
I just figured out
How's
too that I can put this view up, and now it shows all three of us talking. So if the video
Yeah.
records, it should show all three of us on the screen like it used to be, where it's not
Right.
just the person that's talking. Because if you go back and watch the recordings, whoever's talking is being shown, and that's it. The other two are
Yes.
not.
Right.
So
Right.
I haven't got a chance to meet up with Adam yet. I've been busy, buddy. I'm sorry. Trying to get on
That's
here and
okay.
get this squared away, and I'm going away this weekend, so I won't be home.
Yeah.
And then I got a busy. Basically, now for the rest of the month, I've got something going on every week and multiple things going on all the way to the holiday. So I'm going to try
Right,
to.
of course.
The one thing that I want to try to do is rest, which I hope I can do that. But
Mm.
I did, Bud, do my podcast on Tuesday with my friend Alec, and he did not want to talk about the football game. So I just want to
No.
let you know that because
Which one?
the Michigan Ohio State game, because he's a big Buckeye.
Oh yeah, the brawl and the brawl afterwards.
Well, there's a brawl in the
Yeah.
Gator Florida State game, North Carolina
Yeah.
NC State game. There was three of
Well,
them on Saturday night.
well, I mean, state rivalries this time of year, and not for nothing. But of course, Ohio State's trying, was trying to get to the well, at least the top two, and then they just, fell out when they got beat, and then all hell broke out,
Right.
Yep. Well,
which they
it's the
deserve.
doing I.
Fine. I mean, they deserved it.
Yeah, you had all that time to fight about it. In between the whistles.
Well, and I like the interview that they did after the game with the Michigan running back, and he said, their poor sportsmanship by doing what they did. If they wanted to fight, why didn't they fight in the 60 minutes we had?
Yeah.
Field? And like I
In
said, I
between the
agree.
whistles.
Yeah, I agree with that. I watched the game. I watched the end of it. I think I was more shocked than anybody else because I didn't think
Oh,
they had a
okay.
shot
We
to
can.
win. Then again,
Wasn't.
who? I mean,
I wasn't shocked.
no. But I mean, at the end of the day, you have
Well.
anybody going on any given Saturday. I mean, I'm happy that FSU lost. Obviously, if you saw that
Well, yeah.
debacle after
Of
the
course.
game, Mike Norvell, the head coach of Florida State, threw the flag, the
Oh, yeah.
Florida Gator flag. He threw the
Yeah.
flag because he was mad that they were doing that in Tallahassee. And now I noticed too that Gus Malzahn, the coach at UCF, is
Ah,
nice. Nice. That's
Can you all see
classy.
that?
That's classy.
oh yeah,
Classy. Or should I say not classy, that's classless. Let's say that.
classless. Yes, I was
Classless.
gonna say
Yeah.
that too.
Classless.
There's no room for that. Like, not just with any sport. There's no room for that kind of mess. Whatever.
Shenanigans.
Shenanigans.
Well,
That's
well, and it's like they call us classless because we planted the flag on their field. That's classless. That's showing up your opponent. That's not something we need in college football. I'm out of paper towels. No, I'm not. I bought more. But they can spit on our guys as we're coming out of the tunnel and talk all kinds of mad shit. And the thing that makes me mad is that all week, for a year. For a year, they talked mad shit.
Mm-hmm.
How they're cheaters and this, that, and the other thing, going on and on and on and on.
Yes.
And then when we couldn't come up to their house and show them up on national television
Exactly.
and beat them for a fourth year in a row, in a game we shouldn't have been in a game where all the talking heads were going on and on and on and on and on about how this Ohio State team was the greatest team of all time, the greatest team ever assembled. They only had one loss by 1 point. The one to the I think they're the only undefeated team left, Oregon.
Yes, they are.
Michigan wasn't even supposed to be in this game.
No, they didn't deserve it anyway.
And they were actually supposed to boat race our team and beat the brakes off of us. And yet, we got a job done.
Mm-hmm.
They can just stay mad, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Well, my question is this, and I understand.
Yeah.
You know, he has a good record. I'm talking about Ryan Day. You're
Yes.
you're hired to beat one team every year, basically in a rivalry situation.
Right.
He is, and if not, behind Army Navy might be the greatest college football rivalry of all time.
Has
And
to
yet,
be.
and yet, which that game is next weekend.
Right.
But yet, you are what? What is he? 1-6 or 1-5 against them since he
Yes.
became a coach in Ohio State. I'm trying to remember the record from Sunday or Saturday. I mean,
He's 1-4.
1-4. So he won the first contest, and he's lost the last 4 years.
Correct.
To Michigan, and it's been both at home and on the road. Not like he's just lost to Michigan; he's lost at home in Columbus. So
Twice.
I guess the question that I'm asking is, do you guys believe that he needs to be fired and they need to bring somebody new in, or do you keep him because alumni can't be happy? Alumni,
alumni are never happy.
No, they're not.
Well, I was watching First Take, or I should say First Take, watching ESPN on YouTube, and they said that on there that Paul Feinbaum and Stephen A. Smith said that he says that he deserves to be fired, but Mad Dog Russo said no. You know, the guy's like 66-5 against everybody else. You know, as a coach, but he's 5 against Michigan. So, I mean, I guess if the record's so he's 67-10 overall as a coach. So I guess that's my question is.
Yeah, I don't think they should fire. I think they should fire Russo instead. I mean, he's the one.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
I don't now. Like you guys are not now. Look, I'm more familiar with him than you guys are because he's from New York. You know, and he's always been an absolute schmuck. I mean, ever since he was with you know, because he did a local show with Mike Francesa, another legendary guy from the New York area. You might have heard of him, maybe not. But, you know, those two are always at odds with each other. And, you know, Russo was, I think, either he left or he was fired from the station, WFAN in New York, and went on to do his own stuff. But he is going to be one of the most pompous, most arrogant people out there. I mean, he ranks right up there with Colin Cowherd and the other Fox schmuck that was fired. You know, I mean, you put those three jackasses together, and that's what you're going to get.
Skip Bayless.
Pompous.
Let's get Bayless.
Skip Bayless.
In that equation too.
Yep. Well, actually, I think they're all from the same brain, so I guess you know.
I like that, Lou. I like that.
Well, we all are from the same mother. Sure. Yeah, of course you guys are. You got the same brain. You all got the same mother.
I'm not sure which one of you got the brain cell today.
That means that's my opinion.
Oh Oh man.
Well, you know,
I was
rivalry
I
games
was
are
just telling
good.
I was just telling sorry from another show I came off of earlier. Like, every time I come on the show, even though I none of them should, I always do at least a 3-minute monologue, no matter how bad it is.
Well, you can take as much monologue as you want on this show, buddy. You can go on as much as you want. No,
You should do it on
no,
my
no.
show.
You know.
You should do it on
Hey, if
mine.
you couldn't go on as long as you want, they'd have fired me years ago.
Because I know their meaning and how rough they can be.
Well, talking you asking about firing Ryan Day, that's a fine topic we can get into. No, that's the schmuckiest of schmuck thing.
Yes.
And we didn't fire Harbaugh and he was down bad against. He couldn't beat State. He couldn't beat Penn State. He couldn't beat. If you had a state in your name, you were probably going to win. And we kept him, and he gave that speech in 21 at the media days. That coming out of COVID, turmoil in the university, everybody else has been fired. Everybody else has been fired. They keep Mike Macdonald, or they brought in Mike Macdonald, and they promoted Sharon Mora up, and they changed the attitude of the program. Okay, for years it had just been Ohio State's just another game, and during the Urban Meyer days at Ohio State, they were always in the building preaching, "What have you done to beat Michigan? What are you doing to beat Michigan?" They won't even call us Michigan because they're that petty. And Harbaugh refocused, recentered himself. He got everything out of every distraction. He got rid of the red Gatorade because everything was focusing on beating Ohio State. Everything else be damned. Beat Ohio State. And in 21-22, they built teams to beat Ohio State. And then in 23, they brought, and see, this is the other thing that I think makes Ohio State super sharp and soft, is in 23, Michigan gets embarrassed against TCU. And TCU goes and plants their flag, and they're going on to play Georgia in the national championship game. Thank God they got boat race, and I don't have to hear about it. But but they beat us, and they beat us fair and square, clean up, good fought game. Michigan kept trying to come back, and we fell just short. You take the good with the bad. And so
but the whole team fell short this year.
And so last year, we brought everybody back in 23. Corum came back, McCarthy came back, Harbaugh came back for one more to beat Ohio State a third time and go win a national title. And in an all-time classic, beat Ohio State on a last-second interception. In an all-time classic, beat Alabama on a last-second stop on 4th and goal in overtime.
Yes.
And then just took care of business against Washington in a foregone conclusion from about 6 minutes into the second quarter. And so Ohio State wants to do the same thing. They want to show Michigan up. They want to run the table. They want to be the first team in the 12-team playoff era to go undefeated, win a natty. And they lost to Oregon because Ryan Day can't coach himself out of a wet paper bag. When all he's got to do is go pick up a couple of yards, get out and take time out, kick a game-winning field goal. Can't do that. And then Michigan drug him out into the deep. Michigan wanted to get them in deep water and force them to play on the ground. keep everything in front of them and make sure tackles, just like in 21. And what I've noticed from Ohio State is when they can't get out in space, when they can't run after catch, when they're getting tackled immediately and they're only picking up, 14, 18 yards a catch, and they can't run down the field, and they can't get into the speed offense like they like to run, they struggle if they can't get into tempo. And Michigan kept everything in front of them and took advantage of a couple of opportunities that Ohio State gave them. And they gave Ohio State no quarter. They weren't intimidated. They weren't stressed out. They were playing with house money, living loose and living free. And Ryan Day's butt cheeks, his butthole, his sphincters, puckers. Anytime there's adversity in a big game, anytime that it's close in a big game,
Right.
anytime it's late in a big game, and if they don't get out to an early lead, and they can put pressure on the other team to make a couple of mistakes, a mistake here or a mistake there, Ryan Day gets boat raced. I mean, he gets beat. And Ohio State the Ohio State that Ryan Day built is a track team, not a field team. Ohio State wants to get out there on a well-groomed, well-regulated, managed track and just run fast. And Michigan has always been built for the woods. They're going to take you out in the muck and in the blood, and they're going to run you to death. And in a game that they had no business being in, against a top 10 offense and a number one defense, Michigan took them to the deep end and forced Ryan Day to play Michigan's game. Run the ball, control the clock. Michigan didn't let them get deep. They didn't let them get over the top. And they were able to get pressure with 5 and 6. Didn't hit Will Howard very much. No sacks, couple of picks, but Ryan Day got gun shy. Ryan Day got gun shy after Will Howard threw those couple of picks. And with no one breaking open, just naked. No one-on-one opportunities across the board where Will Howard could throw a man open and run with the ball. On their touchdown right there before the end of the half, that Smith kid absolutely shoves Zeke Berry to the ground. And did Jared Goff throw a 27-yard touchdown? Is that what I just saw?
Yeah. It was 27-yard touchdown.
All right. 7-0 Detroit.
6-0 extra point pending.
Okay, cool.
You never know these days.
No, I know, right? And that's what I saw. That's what I watched is that what Ohio State had done all year was getting out in transition, getting with speed, attacking the edges, attacking the corners. And even when they tried to run speed option, when they tried to get out on the edge, Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant were blowing up the middle of the field so bad that it allowed the back seven to flow to the bone. Or the back five. You got that. If they're running right side, Graham and Grant were taking 2 or 3 blockers each. And so everybody else was one-on-one or coming free. And when they didn't get blocked up, Graham and Grant were causing absolute havoc in the backfield. And Ohio State had reworked the offensive line coming into the game. And they had made some adjustments to their offensive line because they had a couple of players get hurt. And instead of giving ground, inviting screens and draws early in the game, getting Michigan off balance, getting Michigan on schedule, getting in second and short, or second and medium, third and short, where they could take advantage of the big-time receivers. They were happy to try and pound the rock right up the middle against the best unit on the field, like top 5 defensive line in the country, because Ryan Day's big head. Because he's heard he's soft.
Mm-hmm.
Now Ohio State wants to play basketball on grass. And instead of just embracing that and being that, and understanding that sometimes you might lose a couple of a game here or a game there while playing to your strengths. That's okay. As long as you play to your strengths, you're going to win more than you lose. But Ryan Day wanted to be tough. He wanted to prove that he had a tough team. We're a tough team. And it's like Sharon said in the post-game press conference, because somebody asked him about it and what he thought about Ohio State saying they're a tough team. And his comments were, well, if you're a tough team, you really don't have to say it.
Was this would you consider Bud Moore's biggest win since the national championship win? Would you rank it like number 2? Or would you think it's more important? I mean, I can't say it's more important than the national championship win from last year. But where would you? I mean, would you rank it number 2 as far as biggest win so far? I mean, again, this is so far. I mean, he is a first-year head coach.
Yeah. Well, it's because he wasn't the coach last year during the championship game. Harbaugh was unsuspended.
I'm sorry, that's right. Harbaugh was. That's right.
Yeah,
right. He came
and
back.
So I would say it was a job-saving win. I personally wouldn't want him fired after 1 year. In a year, you expect to be down anyway. You sent 18 players off to the league. You had to rework your whole offensive line. You have a cancer survivor who's not really a great quarterback. In Davis Warren, your premier running back has the yips all year. 5-star kid shows up in big moments in big games. Is having a down year. You end up going to your converted linebacker to running back has to be the bell cow all year. You're the guy that you thought was going to be that third guy in that rotation is hurt all year. You have no receiving threat on the outside, and your top offensive player is a tight end who is probably a top 10 pick, but he's been limited due to injury all year. He had a lot to overcome for a first year coach with a national championship caliber team, coming off a national championship. So he beats USC, Michigan State, Minnesota, Ohio State, and then the 2 cream puffs at the beginning of the year that you're supposed to beat anyway.
yes.
And when everything that he managed to accomplish with that roster and that caliber of player, he gets his DC to understand the college game. And Wink Martindale has a complete transformation in the second half of the season. Changes his defensive philosophy, goes more to a base philosophy, staying in base, getting rid of the exotic blitz packages, quits trying to do NFL stuff at the college level, simplifies the game, simplifies the calls, makes the changes that are necessary to be competitive in the league, wins the last 2 games, beats Northwestern healthily. It's a healthy win against Northwestern. They're going to get right game going into the biggest weekend of the year. In a game that they have no business being, and he gets the boys up, and they beat the stuffing out of Ohio State. They beat them to their soul. And a more talented quarterback wins that game 34-10.
Yeah.
Because the only thing Michigan couldn't do was complete a pass, for Christ's sake, on Saturday. If they have a competent quarterback, they win that game going away. It's not a 13-10 thriller at the finish. It's a laugher. It's like 34-10, and it's a laugher. And with a competent quarterback that can keep the defense honest, so they can't just load 12 in the box. Speaking of trying to load 12 in the box, and speaking of Ryan Day's incompetent ineptitude at head coach, he calls coming out of his own timeout. He has 12 men on the field, for Christ's sakes.
Didn't he get penalized too for calling back-to-back timeouts, which you can't do?
That's right.
He tried to call the timeout. He was trying to call a timeout because they had 12 men on the field. Instead, they just called the 12-man penalty. See, they had taken a timeout, and Michigan had come up. Michigan had gotten ready and got their group out there, and Ohio State broke their huddle with 12 players, and Ryan Day was trying to call a timeout, and you can't call back-to-back timeouts anymore. So instead of giving – so I'm not sure exactly what the penalty is for a second timeout. They just gave them a 5-yard penalty for too many men on the field. And Michigan was able to just line up and run 3 more plays and kick a field goal with 45 seconds to go. Because on that third down play, one of the Ohio State players had his helmet come off.
Yeah.
Which meant that at the moment his helmet came off, there had to be a 10-second runoff. So they pumped the play clock back up to 40, and they restarted the play clock with 1:26 to come off. They put the play clock. They took the game clock back to 1:36, took 10 seconds off, and so it was 1:26 with a full 40-second play clock. And so Michigan ran it down to 45 seconds and called that last time and called their own timeout. And in all of that, Ohio State was just so discombobulated that when they came out to take the ball for that last 45-second drive, a drive that they should 9 times out of 10 be able to get 60 yards in 45 seconds and attempt a game-tying field goal to send it to overtime. They just were so out of sorts that they couldn't get anything going. They threw for 1 yard. If you want to,
well, I mean, yeah. I mean, after all of that, guys, did you guys get a chance to watch the WWE pay-per-view?
I watched parts and pieces of it.
I watched it. I went to my buddy's house and watched it. Oh, there's okay.
That was the fourth quarter.
Look at that. They only had 10 total yards.
Yeah.
In the fourth quarter.
To 101 from Michigan. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, look at that. Look at third down. Michigan was 4 for 5. Ohio State was 0 for 2.
And the only one they didn't.
And 0 for 1.
The only one they didn't.
Go ahead.
And the only one they didn't get was the one at the end of where they would just dove forward and kick the game-winning field goal.
I got you.
They didn't need that one. That was the only one that they didn't pick up. Was on that last play before the field goal.
I watched the Michigan game and the Florida State game didn't start till 7, which is weird.
Right.
I mean, weird. I mean, because honestly, yeah, Florida was bowl eligible. FSU came in that game with 2 wins. I'm surprised that game was prime time. Usually a game like that would have been at 1 or noon. But I guess they must have scheduled it earlier in the year in Tallahassee. It was in Tallahassee. It wasn't in Tallahassee, which I have to go to a Florida State game in Tallahassee. I've been to a Florida State game in Gainesville. Next year they're back in Gainesville, so it'll be 2026. They'll be back in Tallahassee, so I'll have to go because my buddy who I watched the pay-per-view with, is a Seminoles fan, and he went with
Right.
me to Gainesville, so I got to go. And I've lived in Florida all my life, and I've never been to the state capitol. That's funny how I've never been to our state capitol. But
Right.
the pay-per-view was pretty good. The War
Yeah.
Games matches, if you guys don't know the rules, the War Games
Yeah.
is 5-man teams, and the match doesn't start until all 10 representatives are in the rings, because it's 2 rings. It's not
Sure,
1, it's
sure.
2 in a cage. And everything is legal. You can hit people with chairs and kendo sticks, and throw them through
Below the
tables,
belt.
and everything is legal within that cage. Or even so, you're hoping to get the advantage by getting your guy. You're in there first, because at any point you have 2-1, 3-2, 4-3, 5-4 before the other team gets their fifth guy in. But both the War Games matches were good. It was the OG Bloodline versus the New Bloodline.
Mhm.
The OG Bloodline
Yeah.
won it in the end. But there were injuries. Jimmy Uso broke his toe jumping off the
Ooh.
top rope to hit the Uso splash.
Yeah, that'll do it every time.
Brodus Clay, for how big of a
That was
name
nasty.
he is, I don't know why you would be jumping off the top of a cage, because
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, they get paid a lot of money. They get hurt. I mean, it is that way. They get paid money to do that, but a guy his size to jump off the top of the cage and hurt himself, because I guess they said he's out for numerous
A while.
weeks. I don't know. I didn't see what the injury that he suffered.
I heard it was multiple broken ankles.
He
Mhm.
yeah, it's not good for him.
I saw
Um,
I saw the vid- I saw the
Oh.
video, and when he landed, his left ankle went
Yeah.
up and under. It was
Oh.
gross. It was gross. It was brutal.
So
And
real quick, but I don't mean to interrupt you. The Lions
no, you're
are
good. Go ahead.
against the Packers. The Lightning are up 7-0 over the Sharks in the NHL game. I just want to drop that
Now,
ball. We're up 7-0 right now against San Jose at home.
boy,
At home.
that's
But I thought both Survivor Series matches were good. The women's one was good. That was the one that kicked off the show.
Mhm.
To see Io Sky put a garbage can over her head and then jump off the top rope backwards. Now, again, you are jumping off that
See what-
cage in reverse, and then in hopes that your teammates and or your opponents are going to catch you, because you go
Right.
you go back first into the mat with a metal garbage can. That's going to hurt. that's
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
damage. Some damage.
gonna hurt for a while.
But she pulled that off great. Her
To be
team
able to stick
won.
a spot like that.
Her team won. That was the team. It was Io Sky, Rhea Ripley, Bailey, Naomi, and who was their fifth? Bianca Belair. That was the 5 that won the match. The other 5 was Nia, Tiffany Stratton, Liv Morgan,
Right.
Candice
He was
LeRae.
basically good.
Yeah, they were the heels. The faces were the other team.
Yeah.
I was on with my buddy earlier this week. We were talking about wrestling and stuff like that, and we talked about the pay-per-view. I thought one of the better matches of the night was Shinsuke Nakamura knocking off LA Knight for the United States.
I didn't see
Championship.
that.
Well, so in my opinion, Bud, with Triple H now at the helm of creative, like he's the one that's in charge of all the storylines.
Right.
I think this version of Shinsuke Nakamura is the version that we always wanted to see. The heel, the guy that is aggressive, is hard to wrestle against because of his style coming from Japan. I think that's where he's from. He's from somewhere
Yeah,
else,
it
I
sounds
apologize.
right. Yeah.
I think he's
Hmm.
from Japan. He might be from China. He might be from Korea. I'm not sure. Um,
One of
but
them.
he really, really, I think, is the best version of himself. I like that. I'm also watching so if you see me look down, I have my phone on and I'm watching the Packer Lions game. And if I look up, I'm looking the Lightning Sharks game. But
Yeah, I
anyway,
was gonna charge my
Yeah,
other
I
phone
got
so I
over
could
here
watch
though.
the game. I was
yeah.
gonna charge my phone so I could watch the game, but I forgot.
Yeah,
But
Yeah, my
yeah. So
best friend needed.
the
I
pay
have
per
it on
view,
my laptop.
the pay per view was good. It was, and then I was kind of on my phone scrolling through and watching the Gator game, and I'm not surprised that 4-1
No,
means
no,
that
I'm
they're
not surprised at all.
No.
and I watched I had to catch up on my YouTube videos. If I see something on YouTube, I save it to my watch. Anyways, I think I had like 79 videos because I was off all last. I don't watch when I'm on vacation. I just don't watch YouTube that much. But I got to watch the post game on field interview with Billy Napier, who anyone out there does not know, that's Florida's head coach. Um,
Yes.
and he basically said like, "Hey, they changed. They came out of the bye. They were a completely different team than they were before they went into the bye. And
Yeah,
I mean, they come out, they beat Ole Miss, LSU. They beat two top 10 teams at the time, or top 20
yep,
teams at the time. Florida State obviously should have. I mean, if they would have, it would have been a close game. That would have been bad, but it wasn't a close game. Um, so I'm curious to see. Obviously, they're going to hang on to him. I like our quarterback, Lagway. I think that's one of the reasons why
yeah,
they're keeping Billy Napier, because I think they get along with each other. Um, so I'm cool to see what happens next year for the Gators, Gator football next
yeah. I
year.
know. No, it's kind of like what I was talking about with Sherrone Moore. Billy Napier. I think that Ole Miss win saved his job.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, but just to touch on wrestling a little bit here, I thought that Brodus Clay spot, not Brodus Clay, sorry. Um,
Bronson Reed.
that's it. The Bronson Reed spot was a bad spot. You know, jumping off the cage only works if you can do stuff to protect yourself.
Mm-hmm.
When going through a table is a way to take a bump like that without having to land on your elbow or on your ankles or your elbows.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching Matt Hardy was doing an interview, and I forget the interviewer's name, but he does a lot of wrestling interviews, and he was asking Matt what made him change his style, and he's like concussions. He took one too many bad concussion early in his career, and so he changed how he wrestled, and it put another 8 years on his career. And I think a lot of guys, when you're young and you're dumb, and Bronson Reed is not exactly a small chicken.
No.
He's a dinosaur. He's a dinosaur. He can
A
move,
dinosaur.
but he's huge. If he's 330, he's every bit of 330.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and when it comes to taking a giant spot, like taking a big spot like that, I that's one where I wish Triple H would step in and change that spot. Maybe he doesn't take it from the top of the cage. Maybe he goes up halfway and takes that spot because he is such a big dude. And there's when we talk about football, talking about guys like Tua and other guys about protecting the players from themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a spot where Triple H is going to step in and protect Bronson Reed from Bronson Reed, because when he landed, both his ankles they were facing that way, which is the
Yeah.
wrong way. And And when you're a big guy, and Branson Reed is a fat dude. There's no getting around. He's not fit. He's not built. He's fat. He's just a fat dude, and that's okay. There's no shame in being fat. I'm not exactly 125 with washboard abs, so I'm not criticizing him for his eating habits or anything. But what I am saying is, at the end of the day, he's got to remember he's a fat dude. He's a big boy.
Yes.
And when you're a big dude like that, taking a spot or attempting a spot like that leads to all kinds of bad things if you do it wrong. What was that?
That was a joke, bad boy. What you gonna do? That was a joke.
Break your ankles. Break your ankles. Break your ankles.
Yes.
And there's some, I understand kayfabe and being in the moment, and wrestling is, wrestling is theater that masquerades as sport, right? And we get that. We're all, if you're not a 12-year-old boy, you're a mark, and you're okay with being a mark, because that's the theater, right?
Same with me.
When we know that Hamlet isn't holding a real dead guy's skull, right? To be or
If you ever see it was though.
It'd be creepier if it was.
Yeah.
It'd certainly make for good theater.
Oh yeah.
But we all know it's a prop. We all know that everything is scripted and it's dramatized. But unfortunately, even in theater, even in performances, actions happen, mistakes are made, people get hurt. Generally speaking, in theater, you don't have a 330-pound guy jump off the top of the scaffolding and land on the stage, because that's stupid and dangerous. And of course, if you land, go to grandma's. If he sticks that spot, then it's, obviously hindsight is 20/20, and if he sticks that spot, then we all go, what a spot. That was insane. But I think we can all recognize, even if he had stuck that spot, that was a bad spot to try and take, because of his size and his top heaviness. Because he's not like a built 330. He's not like Kane or Undertaker, who are actually taller than him, but that's neither here nor there. But he was like your uncle after too much Thanksgiving turkey, trying to jump off the railing at your aunt's house.
Yes.
And we all told Uncle Al he shouldn't do that, but there was no stopping him. And I really think that was the point. That's the thing, just like with the guys like Bronson Reed or Braun Strowman or other big dudes. Now, Braun Strowman is a tank. The dude's built for it. Bronson.
The guy that impresses me, Bud, with that kind of size is Braun Breaker. I don't know if you guys have seen him.
Braun Breaker is.
Let me tell you, a man can spear somebody at 25 miles an hour. Now, I just want you to think about that. He flies off the ropes.
It's a car crash.
And he just I saw that, he had a match, he had a triple threat match for his Intercontinental Championship. I have a funny feeling that if they don't do it this year, coming up in 2025, it'll be early 2026, but he's going to have a heavyweight championship. There's no way.
Yeah.
He's just too good to be just Intercontinental Champion. And again, no offense to anyone that's held that title. That used to be the contender, the number one contender for the heavyweight championship. That used to be the belt. Yeah.
Well, it goes like U.S. title, IC title, and then once you get your IC title, like you'll have a direct path to the championship. You're handpicked to be one of the next guys. There might be a couple of guys in front of you that get it, and then eventually you get your shot and you get to wear the gold. I don't care for him. I think he's kind of a dork. He's a big dork who could beat me up, but I still think he's kind of a dork.
The thing with him, with Braun Breaker, is he reminds me a lot of Deadpool. You never know if he's a good guy or a bad guy. He can go both ways.
Yeah.
He plays
Sure, I'll
heel
give you that.
very well, but he also plays face. So you never know which way he's going to go. So I'm curious to see where or how Triple H uses him
Yeah,
moving
going forward.
Because obviously right now you have Gunther and you have Cody Rhodes.
Mm.
Those are the guys that hold the gold right
Right.
now. I don't honestly. I think if anything, it would be more sense for him to take it off of Gunther than it would
Yeah,
be
that would
Cody,
make sense.
because I think Cody's got too much going on with Kevin Owens,
Yeah.
Randy Orton, those
Yeah.
guys like that.
Plus,
Roman Reigns, obviously
John Cena.
Roman Reigns rematch down the road. So
we also
yeah,
have Cena coming back at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I talked about this on Tuesday. I said that I would like to have seen it. I hope they do this, but bring John back and either at Rumble or at WrestleMania, one of the two, he wins the belt and breaks Ric
I'll
Flair.
take Rumble.
And they do it, and
It's
then
gotta be Mania.
that would be excellent if that's what happens.
Yeah, either way.
It's gotta be Mania. It's gotta be Mania. That's gotta be Mania. It's gotta be a main event. It should be Orton or Punk. It should be Orton or Punk. I'm gonna argue with everybody on this. This is the hill that I am willing to die on. To take the belt off of, to give Cena his 17th. It's got to be main event WrestleMania. That is a main event WrestleMania moment waiting to be made.
No, I totally agree. I'm hoping that that's what they do, that they end up doing that. And what would be even better is, and I know, a lot of them go to the Hall of Fame induction the night before Mania. I hope that Rick's there. I hope that it would be awesome.
Be super sweet.
It would be awesome to see Rick come out after John wins, breaks the record, and Rick comes down the ramp and hugs him or whatever he does and say, "Hey, kid, thank you." Because really, if you think about it, the only other person that I think is even close that's still active is Randy Orton. I don't think anyone's even close to John's 16. I think Randy's got 14 or 13
something like that, yeah.
And Randy's not a spring chicken, and I think Randy's near the end of his career anyway.
I
agree.
And he's hurt, again.
Is he?
Thanks to Kevin Owens. Owens hurt him. So he's out, and I guess they're doing the Saturday night main event thing, and that's happening this Saturday.
The 14th.
The 14th. Okay.
Next week.
They're doing. It's going to be Owens against Cody for the title. That's a title match. I don't honestly believe that they're going to switch titles on a.
They could take Cody off the belt,
but you never know. You never know.
They could take the belt off of Cody and put it on Owens, and have. They could do whatever they want, of course, but it could be a fun angle to have Owens versus Cena at Mania for the belt, and have Tate put the belt on Cena one last time, and then at Survivor Series, the last pay-per-view of the year, take the belt off him, or even have him win it. You could have him win the belt. You could have him hold gold from Mania all the way to Survivor Series. He wins at Survivor Series, and then the Monday after Survivor Series, he could drop the title, and then you could have 3 weeks of build up to day one in 26, and then have a championship, winner take all, triple threat, fatal 4-way, something like that for the belt. Because I think I really want to see Gene. I don't want him to just get the belt at Mania and then drop it Monday after Mania. I want him to have a good long title run. In 6 months from Mania or 8 months or whatever it would be, because Mania is in April and the Survivor Series is in November or December. End of November, beginning of December, depends on how it falls on the calendar. You could have Cena with the belt for, let's see, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. A 9-month title run isn't bad. It's not like you have to keep the belt on him for 2.5 years, but you could position several guys: Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, Braun Strowman, guys named Braun, Kevin Owens could have another run. Orton could have another run. Or you could have Orton take the belt off of him at Survivor Series. You could have somebody take the belt off of him. You could have somebody give him a going away match. Have somebody beat him you could have LA Knight beat him as the heir apparent.
That
you could have
Logan
guy beat him.
A belt. Yep.
You could have Logan beat him. You could set it up all year and have LA Knight or Logan Paul or Kevin Owens or Randy Orton feuding with Cena for 9 months, back and forth, wins and losses, where you could do a Cena heel turn for 9 months, where Cena's just this bad guy. He's never been a bad guy. He's always been a face. You could have Cena do a heel turn and have him be the bad guy, because he's going away at the end of the year anyway. He doesn't have to be a good guy. He's not coming back. He could attack people in the locker room. He could interrupt matches all year long. Be that arrogant. He could come back out for one last run as the Doctor of Thugonomics. And he could, he comes out, fantasy booking, if you will. He comes out as Cena, hustle, loyalty, respect. My time is now, up through Mania. And then he says, and then at the night after Mania, he wins the title, or he could even lose. He could lose at Mania. He could lose at Mania. And he says, screw this. And the Doctor of Thugonomics music hits. And you see him come down to the ring in his chains and that jersey that he wore, a backward baseball cap. And he could be the Doctor of Thugonomics. And he could win at SummerSlam or at Royal, because I think the Rumble was before Mania, but whatever the one after Mania is, he could win as the Doctor of Thugonomics and be a heel for the rest of the year.
Yeah. No,
There's
I
so many
mean,
different angles you could.
I guess, but what it'll come down to is how long does he want to hold on to the belt? Because again,
That's true.
He came out and he said, "This is it for me. Mania is it for me." So it just depends on how long he wants
it's just a shadow
to hold the belt. Now, I'm totally
No.
for him holding on to it for a long time, because you said, I think it would suck if he wins at Mania on night 1 or night 2, whatever night main event.
It would have to be one night.
And then on Raw, which will be at that time, by then will be on Amazon or Netflix. I think it's Netflix.
Netflix, yeah.
And, it'll
the streaming machines are sunk.
It'll be 4 months into the new thing, because I know it's starting in January, and a couple about 2 or 3 weeks from now, I think is when it.
Yeah, it's the first. It's the first Monday in January.
Okay. So they,
January 6th.
It would be great. I mean, it would suck to see him drop the belt the night, and then the only other good thing about that would be is if they did do that, they could have a tournament leading up to the next pay-per-view after Mania, and then the two winners face off or do a fatal 4-way and have 4 guys,
or 3, a triple threat match.
Or a triple threat, however it might be. It could be Cody, Logan, Braun Breaker, or it could be Cody, Roman Reigns, and Solo Sikoa. I mean, they could go.
Yeah, well, you could go LA Knight, Sikoa, and Logan. You could really open.
You can even throw Shinsuke Nakamura's name into that combination too, if he's not the United States champion.
Yeah.
Because it's getting the belt taken.
He could be He could still be U.S. champ
Yeah.
and put his U.S. title on the line for a shot at the big prize.
Yeah.
Or
No,
there's nothing that says he can't drop his title and go after the big one. They could force him to drop his title for a shot at the big prize. I mean, there's so many angles here at the end of the as we look forward to 2025 that because Cena will be back for the whole year. That's what I've heard. I heard that this is his last WrestleMania, but he's going to wrestle the year out from what I understand. So projecting long term going into because 2025 is kind of an odd year. It's going to be his going away tour. He's going to have a farewell tour. He's not necessarily not going to come back to WWE, but as of this moment, he's done wrestling. Obviously, that's all subject to change. He could get bit by the bug. He could love it. He come back, only appear at pay-per-views, wrestle pay-per-views, never be on TV during the week, not have those long hours of intense and grueling training with hundreds of media appearances, 52 or 50, 52 nights a year wrestling, or at least being on TV. He could be on TV once a month. Come out, say some shit, go back to the locker room, and go home. And he might really like that. He might actually decide to stay around for 2, 3, 5, 10 years. There's no guarantee that Cena says he's done. Cena says he wants to go do other things. I'm pretty sure he's married, got a couple of kids now. His kids are in their early teen years. I think they're
no kids. He had an interview, Bud, with Shannon Sharp, and Shannon asked him directly, like, "Hey, we know how many kids you've helped with the Make-A-Wish Foundation," and he basically said, he goes, "Hey, do you ever want to be a dad?" And John said, "No, I'm not that type of person." He said that the reason that he doesn't want to be a dad is because he's one of those people who is a go-getter. Whatever he's involved in, he wants to give 100%. But with kids, he said he goes, I'm not the father that everyone thinks I would be. I'm just not. That's not my role. I believe he's still married. I think he's married, as far as I know.
Last I knew, he was married to one of the twins.
Oh, Nikki, he never got married to Nikki. Nikki just got divorced from her husband. She's got 2 kids herself. But
that must have been what I was thinking.
Yeah,
because I thought that they had gotten married.
Yeah, Cena has no kids at all.
Again, well, that goes back into what I was saying about him not having. It's easy to say that. Hey, I wouldn't be a good dad. It's not what I want. But if he does retire in 2026, and he really doesn't have anything else going on. Now he's a movie star, but he's also getting older. When you're 50-ish, late 40s, being an action star, doing all that movie stuff, he may end up settling down and being like, oh, you know what? I would like to have kids. I would like to have a family. He might. 50, he might. He's right around there. He's like mid-40s. Last I knew, he was 44, but that was like 3 years ago. So I think he's like 45 or 47 now. I don't remember offhand.
Not late to have kids, though. What do you think?
I mean, what's his nuts? That one actor dude, he's like 76 and just had a kid.
Robert De Niro just had a kid.
De Niro, that's it.
Yeah.
De Niro just had a baby. I mean, 47 is a little on the older side, but they'll be graduating when you're in your late 60s or late 50s, early 60s. So it's not like it's the end of the world. It's not like it's the worst thing that's ever happened. So it's not like John Cena doesn't have money. He's got money. He's got an acting career. He's had a successful WWE Hall of Fame run for the last 25 years.
He's got the kick-ass TV show Peacemaker that he was in, or that he still is in. And he's got, I think, as far as what I heard, I think they're filming the last Fast and Furious movie. From what I understand, and that's why
what they said.
that's why The Rock wasn't at Survivor Series, is because he's
Mm,
filming, and they said also
mm.
that his appearance at WrestleMania may not happen either because of that reason, that he's got too much going on. And think of this too: WrestleMania happens in what, April? Isn't that
Yes.
kind of around the start of the football league that he owns? Isn't that when
Yeah,
that,
it
that
is.
that league starts up around the fall, around the
Early
spring?
April.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's got
Late
other
March, early
projects.
April.
Yeah.
I
I don't
think it's
know.
like mid-March.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
it's like the
So
second
You mean
Sunday in March.
the UFL?
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think
Because
April actually.
it's
Yeah,
like
if you
the
ask me though, I mean, Fast and Furious franchise has not been the same since the passing of Paul Walker. So
They should have
it
stopped
is
making
missing
it
that.
when he passed away.
Yeah, that's what I would have said too. I was surprised it even
yeah, but
went on. Like, how could you allow Paul Walker?
but I understand that. I get that sentiment. But for everybody,
Yeah,
every family that it feeds, you know, and it's fed a lot of families. I understand why they keep making them.
Vin Diesel.
one option.
It's
Well,
he hasn't had any good movies outside of that, outside of those
No.
10.
Riddick was good.
Riddick was
I like
good.
Riddick.
Yeah, the Riddick was good.
But what I'm saying is, or when you're saying that the Fast and Furious movies are bad, which they're not classic cinema, but they fed a lot of families
Hmm.
over the years. And Hollywood won't kill a cash cow. If they keep making $1 billion, they're gonna keep making them.
Yep.
Especially when movies are costing, when it costs $350 to $500 million to make a movie like that. When the average movie cost for a blockbuster is well north of $200 million, if your movie can make double or triple its budget, it was one thing when you had a budget of when a expensive movie was $50 million to make, and you
Yeah.
made 75 or 100 million, you felt good. Now, when 150 or $75 million is just the budget to make the film, if your movie isn't grossing north of $1 billion, it's hard. It's hard it's hard to convince producers to put on a movie.
Sure.
And that's one thing that's made Hollywood gun shy of making of exploring new projects, is because if a movie is gonna if a new movie without a built-in fan base, without a book, or books or sequels or something that has a built-in fan base, if it's going to cost $350 million, they want to guarantee that their movie's going to make money.
Well, I can agree with that, Bud, because you look at, and I'm an Alien fan, the Alien franchise. Alien 3 I thought was BS. Resurrection
Yeah.
was even better. But the lady,
Prometheus sucked.
and you had Romulus and Prometheus
Mhm.
back to back. I'm sorry, not Romulus was I saw Romulus in the movie theater. I thought it went back to the origin of the xenomorph being the hunter. Like,
Mhm.
it was it would freak you out. Like, okay, you are on a ship or wherever you are, and you're being hunted by this thing that is in some, can't be killed. It just can't be killed. No
Right.
matter what happens to it. And um as Prometheus and what was the other one? Prometheus and Covenant. I think it was Covenant was the two that
Something like that, yeah.
Michael Fassbender was in as the android. But I thought Romulus did good. Now, Romulus was supposed to have taken place in between the first and the second Alien movie, which, as far as like movies and then sequels, I thought that was the best because the movies were
Mhm.
as good. It's hard to be just as good as the first one. Like, the first one's
Yeah.
usually the one that sets the the table, sets the whatever, and it's hard for a sequel to come in and go, "Oh, you suck." Like that sequel was horrible. But Aliens was just as good, and
Better.
some people in the franchise actually consider the second movie the better of the two. Adam's got his hand raised. So there are people
Aliens
that
is so
consider
much
the
better.
second one better, and I'm disappointed, bud. I saw some of the deleted scenes from the second one.
Hmm.
The one thing that I wish that they had left in the movie was the
Yeah.
Gatling gun scene where they set up those guns in the
Hmm.
hallway and it's shooting, and you could see those things spinning, and the guns are, smoking, and then after a while, the xenomorphs don't come down the hallway anymore because they know better. Like we're not
Right.
they train the guns so bad they have no bullets. Like they're out of
Right.
ammunition and come down the hallway. I wish that they would have left that scene in the movie. I think it would have
Mm.
been it made that because you remember when they were locked in that room, right? And they were coming in
Right.
through the ceiling. I think that scene after they survived that ceiling incident, where they're all in there, they all they all don't survive that scene because they get blown up in the tunnel or whatever. But I wish that they would have then put that gun scene, the next scene in. But again, that's what it is.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, you're right. Hollywood is not going to go back and make new movies when they have a funny feeling that they can make. I mean, I was watching Watch Mojo the other day.
Mhm.
They were talking about 10 movies that they're going to remake.
Mhm.
Like The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. That's one of the best horror movies out there.
yeah.
They're going to remake that movie. Um,
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, there are a couple on that list that I've never heard of. I mean, they're before
Sure.
my time. So, but I mean, I think back to this. If you guys remember The Thing, John Carpenter
Mhm.
with Kurt Russell,
Yes. Of course.
and yeah, Kurt Russell was the main. I'm trying to think of who was the actor that played the black guy that was the guy at the end of the movie where they were sitting across from each other drinking whiskey as they were freezing.
No idea.
I'd have to look that up to see who that was.
Mm.
Anyway, I saw the original The Thing from Another World, which was made in 1956, which is in black and white.
Right.
It was good as the John Carpenter
Yeah.
version. It's
Right.
I mean, it's just as
Where did you
good.
see the original?
I saw the original Lou on back in the back when you could download torrents off of the internet.
Mm.
Back
Yeah.
do that. Legally. Now you can't do anything. It's illegal now, but back then when you could do it legally. But anyway, I downloaded it because somebody had mentioned it to me. There's been a lot of movies that I've watched. The movie The Warriors. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. The movie
Heard of it.
Warriors come out and play. I saw that movie that way where it just downloaded it and watched it. But yeah, I mean, Adam's right. What's going to happen is if they come out with Fast and Furious, I think this is number 10. If that movie
11.
makes 11, if that movie makes $1 billion worldwide, I'll bet you they'll come out. Maybe they'll take a year off or 2 years off, and they'll bring another back. They'll do something along the lines of Paul Walker's kids are now part of the gang now.
The crew.
Or
Yeah.
Dom's kids are part of it now, where they're the next generation of car enthusiasts and thieves or whatever you
Although
want to
out
call
of
them.
all of them, three, I think it was 3 or 4 was the worst.
3 was Tokyo Drift.
That's the one. That's the one. It sucked.
Oh, no,
And then
Tokyo Drift.
4, I don't remember.
I mean,
4, I
to
think, was
me,
the last.
to me, that was
Paul
like
Walker.
watching a. I mean, to me, that was like watching a bad after school special. Oh,
Wasn't Paul Walker was the 4th
Paul
one.
Walker was in part of the 5th.
Was he part of the 5th
He
one?
died. Yeah, he died during the filming of the 5th movie.
That's right.
yes.
In a car
Yeah.
accident. Of all.
Go figure.
Yeah. And do you know what happened to him? How he died in a car? I don't know if did you guys hear how he died?
I've heard it. It's been a while. I know.
He was seatbelted in, and he hit something, and when he hit it, the object pinned the steering wheel against his arms.
Yeah, you wrapped it around her.
He couldn't reach the seatbelt, the
The rope,
button
the
to
latch, the
eject
release
the
latch.
seatbelt. The car caught on fire and he burned to death. That's kind of what I mean. I know that's gruesome to say that, but that's what happened. He burned to death because he couldn't reach. They tell you now, and I watch a channel on TikTok where these guys they dive down and pull cars up from the bottom of a lake or whatever. The guy always at every end of the videos, and I have one in my car too, have a glass breaker. I have a thing in my car that breaks the glass and cuts the seatbelt. So you don't get stuck if your car goes in the water. God love you. Pray to God that never happens to
Good luck.
anybody.
Yeah.
But if you can break the glass and get out of the car before the car sinks to the bottom of wherever it's at, yeah. But I mean, you can cut the seatbelt. I mean, to get out of the car. But that's what happened.
Well, let's be realistic here. It wasn't because he was doing 100+ miles an hour when he wrapped it around that light
That's
pole.
correct. You are correct, buddy.
So
you are correct.
it's not like
breaking the sound barrier.
When you're in an accident like that, it just survival becomes a matter of luck. You get to roll the dice. You know, obviously having a survival tool in your car with a belt cutter and a window breaker isn't a bad thing. But let's not get drunk and do X and then go drive 100+ miles an hour.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was. I thought he was. I thought he was intoxicated, but he might not have been. But regardless, let's not drive 100 miles. I thought he was, but he might not have been. I don't remember.
Yeah, it's hard.
Well, and the thing is that I think it was a McLaren P4. I think is what he was driving. I don't remember exactly what car he was driving, but he's out on a street. You're on a street. You're not on a movie set. You're not on a race course. No. And it's late. I can't remember if it was the middle of the night or the afternoon. I think it was the middle of the night. And you wrap your car around a freaking light pole. So I mean, it's really hard to say if he could have gotten out, even if he had
the tool that I was talking about. You're right, bud. Yeah, I mean, that's true. That's very true. Hard to tell if
it was the middle of the afternoon. Yeah,
he would have even.
Oh, it's a
yeah.
He was doing 93 on a 45.
Oh.
Yeah, concrete lamppost into a tree according to friends. Yeah, the team both men were knocked out, so they were unconscious. Trauma died within seconds from a combined effect of physical trauma and burns. Yeah. Popular drifting spot for cars. No alcohol. Okay, so he wasn't drunk or drugged. Driving the best way include the car's speed, age of the tires. So get good tires. That's another thing. And don't drive. Oh, they were in the middle of filming Fast Furious 7.
Okay. So he was in the first 6, and part of number 7 before he passed away from the car accident. Okay. Yeah, I think they should have stopped making, but then again, they won't because they were making money. And when they're making money, they're not going to stop making them because of that reason. And that's, you guys remember the Marvel movies too, where there were 13, 14 before the last one.
Yes.
Infinity War. Now they're trying to reboot everything. So now they're trying to bring new superheroes in, new enemies, and stuff like that. So,
and that's always been a trope of comic books. There's about every 20 years. This started. So God, I used to know offhand. Now I can't remember it now. DC Comics. it wasn't called DC Comics at the time, but the first issue of Superman in 1939. And then they had 100 or so odd issues by the late 50s or 400. I don't remember. Like they had been making comic books. They'd introduced Superman and Batman, and it was getting to the point where people were tired. Kids weren't resonating with those stories anymore. The golden age of comic books, just there were so many books that kids just couldn't get into. A franchise that's been around for 20 years is hard to get into. Starting in the middle of a franchise, if there are 330 issues and you pick up issue 173, you have no idea what the hell is going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like it's kind of like picking up football in the middle of the eighth game of the year.
Yeah.
Halfway through the second quarter of two teams that you have no idea about. And so about every 20 or 20 so year, 25, 50 to 25 years, they kill everybody off, wipe everybody out in some world-ending event, and then restart everything. And they issue new first edition. So in the mid 50s to early 60s, they did that. Started new storylines with new characters and new places, and then slowly reintroduced the old characters, especially the bad guys, into the story. And then again in the early 80s, they did the same thing. In the early 2000s, they did a similar thing. And we're getting into that point where they're going to start issuing new. They're going to kill off the current crop of heroes and bring in new heroes to entertain. And that's kind of where comic book movies are at, where they've been going for so long. The kids that were born when the first movies came out are now starting to get into, kids that were born when Avengers was coming out when I was younger. I won't say a kid because I was 21 at the time when that came out, but younger. If I had kids, but kids that were born in that same year are now starting, they're turning 10, 11, 13, and they're starting to get into that. They're at that age where comic book movies are starting to interest them, comic books and comic book characters. And so this is a chance for Marvel, the Disney and Marvel and Warner Brothers to reboot their franchises and bring in new characters and new storylines and new plots and new actors to fill out roles, or bringing back old actors to fill in new roles. And so, it'll be interesting to see where that dynamic goes in the next 5 to 10 years and see how they manipulate the audiences.
What are you guys' thoughts on Mac Brown getting fired? And now they're talking. I've heard rumors that Bill Belichick wants the job at North Carolina, and John Gruden wants the job at UCF, from what I've heard. So
no, Gruden to UCF is interesting. That could be very interesting. He's always had an affinity for kids,
Yes.
and not in a bad way. But Gruden to UCF, I like it.
Not saying anything wrong.
Belichick, I think Belichick will hold out for the Cowboys job.
Okay.
As McCarthy gets fired, yes, which should be soon.
I think McCarthy. Unless they go on an insane 8-game winning streak or 9-game winning streak and finish 10-6 and back their ass into the playoffs. I think it's Super Bowl or bust for McCarthy. I think once they get bounced from once they're officially eliminated from playoff contention. I think the handwriting is on the wall for McCarthy. Who they got this week? They got the Eagles?
Cincinnati on Monday Night Football.
Well, okay, this week, but it's gonna come. It is gonna come.
Terrible Monday Night Football game. I wish that they had that flex early on in the season.
Right
now. Because tonight, tonight's game is at least 2 teams that are going to make the postseason.
Yeah,
No doubt that
Right.
Detroit and Green Bay are probably
no
both
question.
gonna be when it's all said and done. But when you have a Monday night game and that's supposed to be, the game of the week a lot of times, and you have Cincinnati, Dallas. I understand the schedules are made out ahead of time.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's hard
Yeah.
to say, oh well, we're in week 13 and Dallas and Cincinnati what are they combined 8 wins, 7 wins between the two of them.
Yeah, I think something like that. Yeah.
No one would
It's
have
not.
thought that's where they would be.
Yeah. I
But
think
yeah,
Brad Taylor gets.
the I heard because like I said, Gus Malzahn quit
Right.
and is going to FSU to be the OC and FSU under Mike Norvell. So that leaves that job open. And
Right.
again, the thing with John Gruden is he's a name. And again, that's what all these universities are really looking for, Dion,
Yeah.
is a name.
Yeah.
I've heard Ray Lewis's name popping up for the FAU job. It's
Okay.
Really?
that again, guys, this is just what I've heard. Now, I don't know how true.
Right. Of course.
It could be someone that's just trying to grab a headline. Hey, I'm going to throw
Right.
the team out there.
Yeah.
And the thing with Gruden and Belichick, at least they have coaching experience. Ray Lewis,
Yeah.
he's never been a coach, a player, but never been a coach.
Has he
And
not? Has he been a player? Has he done any coaching, like a high school or something like that? He's been
you'd have
like a
to check, but
linebacker
I'm
coach in high
not
school.
100% sure. I don't know.
Let's look it up.
To see maybe if he does have. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously he would be a great linebackers coach because he was one of the best linebackers
he could be.
in his time. I mean, so I mean, he's got to
Yeah,
be.
he could be a great. He could be a great linebacker. He could be a great linebackers coach, but that is doesn't say anything about him doing any coaching here.
And I'm assuming he would be more of a defensive-minded coach, being that that's the side of the ball that he played on, compared to being an offensive side of the ball. I mean, unless he flip-flops and goes the other direction, but
Yeah.
So according to the Baltimore Sun, there's been no contact between Lewis and FIU.
Okay.
So that means he's already got the job, right?
Well, well, I think it's FAU that's the job that
It says FIU.
Yeah.
You know what? I think FIU's got a coaching gig open too. So I wouldn't be surprised
that's what
if
both
teams
That's what
have
that's what the Baltimore Sun said. FIU. They could be wrong too, but
Well, FIU is in Miami, and he went to the University of Miami. He's a Hurricane.
right.
So it would fit that well, being that he went to college. And what a lot of people
Off the
don't
road.
know is that Miami does not play in Miami. They're in Coral Gables. Coral Gables.
Yep.
Now they play in the Hard Rock Stadium where the Dolphins play in Miami, but the University
But
of
their
Miami
campus
is not in Miami; it's in Coral Gables. FIU is in Miami.
Yep.
So there you
FIU is in the city proper.
And what you guys remember that big brawl they had with each other?
Yep.
2006. I was gonna say it was in the early 2000s when they had that big brawl. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, what's going on is these universities that
they want names.
They're exactly that's exactly.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
They're a middling school like FIU to land a coach, like to get a guy like Lewis to come in and be their head coach is a huge boon to the program if he can coach.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about a guy like Ray Lewis, he retired in 2013, so he's been away from the game for 10 plus years. And he's been out of school for even longer. And the college game, all of football is faster and bigger and stronger than it was 10 years ago. And I don't know, if I was FIU, I would want to hire a solid high school coach who has been coaching for 5 or 10 years, and then talk to Lewis about coming in and being a linebackers coach, or a
DC.
defensive specialist.
Yeah.
Not even DC, but a position, an analyst, to see if he has the chop for coaching. You bring him to be a film breakdown guy, because Lewis was really good at that. He was really good at breaking down film and being a film guy. So if you really want, you could bring in a Lewis. You could bring Lewis in to
Yeah.
break down film, to study, to help the kids learn how to study film, and be a special analyst. And then, in a year or two, move him up to linebackers coach. And then in a year or two, move him up to defensive coordinator. And then in a year or two, move him up to head coach. If that's something he really wants to do. But if it's just we're going to throw a big pile of money at him, a la Matt Millen, then it's a waste of everybody's time. Because that's what the Lions did with Millen. He was on the Fox broadcast. He had retired. He got a job at Fox. He was the like fourth or fifth guy on the roster, and he always got the Lions games. And he talk a really good game, like, hey, if they just got this guy and that guy and this guy, and they did this thing and they brought in this coach, they'd be a really good football team. And so William Clay Ford went, okay, and called him up, and Millen said, no, I don't know what I'm doing. And he said, for this much? Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And he said, okay. And they called him back, and it's like, well, how about for this much? He's like, no, I just don't know what I'm doing. And they called him up a third time, and this is at least as far as I remember the story going. It might have only been 2 times, and it might have been more than 3. But they offered him more money than he could say no to. And finally, they found their magic number, because, as Ted DiBiase once said, everybody's got a price. They gave him enough money where he said, fine, screw it, I'll take the job.
Yeah.
And then 8 years later, they should have never given him the job in the first place. And that's my only fear with bringing in a guy like Ray Lewis with no coaching experience and giving him the keys to the castle.
Right.
Off scores.
It's one thing if he had 5 or 10 years of coaching experience at the high school level. If he had been an analyst, and then if like he had been a graduate assistant at his university for a summer, and then gone off and played 13 years in the NFL, and then he had gone back to Miami to be a graduate assistant, and then he had gone and taken the linebackers position at a high school, and then a DC, and then a head coach, and then he had gone to college, gone up another level, and gone to college and done college coaching work. Like started out as an analyst, a special assistant to the analyst, or a special teams coordinator, defensive, some kind of position coach, linebackers coach, got a DC gig somewhere in college. It could have been a Division II team, or like one of the HBCUs, like Grambling or something like that. At least a school where he had been making calls and recruiting. And that's the thing that's the other thing that is super hard for a college coach is recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you unlike in the NFL where you have a GM, and then you have the owner and the GM and all the people, the scouting team and all the people that report to the GM, and then you have the head coach and all the people that report to the head coach, and an OC and everybody underneath him, the positions groups guys, and everybody under them that report to them. And you might have 300 people on staff at any given time, at any given NFL team. When you go to college, just now they're starting to introduce player GMs, player personnel management or whatever. This is a thing that's only been started to be happening in the last 2-3 years with all the NIL money that has to be divvied out amongst the players. When you have these young guys coming in, and then you have to go out and recruit, and it's not like the NFL where there's 2,000 guys to pick from on any given year, and you might have 5 or 6 holes that need to be filled or upgraded. you might have a great wide receiver, but there's a great wide. You might have a good wide receiver, but hey, you know, Jordan Jefferson's not on contract this year. Let's go get him. Let's see about signing him. Now when it comes to college football, there's 10 or 12 or 15,000 players every year that are available that you have to go and talk to. You have to meet with. You might only end up meeting with 12,000. You might only end up meeting with 2,000 or 3,000 kids, but you're the head coach, and you have to meet with every single last one of them. It's not like you have a GM that just calls up the guy and goes, "Hey, are you interested in playing here? No? Okay, thanks, bye."
Yeah, because you guys just saw that Andrew Luck took the GM job at Stanford, right? They hired him to be the GM at Stanford.
No surprise there.
Yeah, he played there. He had big shoes to fill when he got drafted.
Obviously, yes.
To Indianapolis. He had major shoes to fill.
Of course.
Well, we all do.
And when it comes to signing players, I think when it comes to signing players in the NFL, it's a lot easier to sign players in the NFL than it is to recruit kids in college. Because when I was looking for a school, had I been an athlete, I would have picked any other school. Ohio State could have backed up the Brinks truck under the table and offered me $100,000 or $250,000. I'd have told them to take a flying fucking rolling donut. I don't care. I was never going to play. I wasn't going to school at Ohio State. I wasn't going to school at Michigan State. Period. End of story. It wasn't going to happen. I don't care. They could have had the best whatever, psychology program in the country. Ain't going to happen. But playing for Green Bay or Minnesota or Chicago, sure, shit, I'll play there. I don't care. Or playing then I was always a bigger hockey guy than I was a football guy growing up. If I had been able to go out for hockey, but the only team that I wouldn't have signed with or demanded a trade for, and this was, 30 years ago, so would have been Colorado. Yeah, Colorado. But other than that, I would have signed with any of the other 29 teams in the league and would have had no problem signing anywhere. For college, but when it comes to college, there are schools that I would have never gone to. Period. I wouldn't have gone to state, and I wouldn't have gone to state. And so I think recruiting is harder than it is. I think recruiting in college is harder than being a coach or a GM in pro ball, because with pro athletes, the big thing is money. Can we each reach a price that we can both agree on?
Sure.
And then everything after that, we can negotiate. We can figure out if we can get you here. We can figure out, getting some, especially with college, because so many kids come into college and they want to, should we say, spread their wild oats. Most of them don't have if they have a girlfriend, it's a high school girlfriend. It's a lot easier for them to, just break it up. Hey, I'm going to school, and, but when you have guys, he's in his 5th or 6th year in the league, he's married, he's got 2 or 3 kids, sometimes more, sometimes with multiple women. Unless you're Phillip Rivers and you have time with one, so I feel bad for Mrs. Rivers.
Or Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's got like 13
Did he have a little?
Yes.
Did he have a? I know. Waddle's not Waddle. Oh God, Hill's got like 11 kids with 10 women. So, but with college kids, it's a lot easier to pry them away from their girlfriends, as it were. But with pro athletes who got 2 or 3 kids, they're married or have a long-term girlfriend. Their rambling days are winding down, so to speak. With the best ones, they're committed to the business. They're there to do the job, give 100% of everything they have on every day of the week, Monday through Sunday. No days off. With college kids, they have all their schooling that they have to get done on top of their football stuff and anything else they might have going on in their life. So you have that. That's a super big concern for a college coach. Looking at a guy with looking at kind of what we were talking about the other week with what's his nuts down in LSU. Ryan. Why can I not? It's Brian? Is it Brian Kelly? Is that
LSU? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We all thought that when he was at Notre Dame, the problem was he couldn't get some of those guys that might need a little bit of assistance to keep their grades up, so that they could stay eligible or just even make a roster. With LSU, we thought he'd go down to LSU. He'd be able to open up his recruiting a little bit more, and be able to take some of those guys that were in a 2.6, 2.7. Hey, you need a little bit of extra study help, don't you, buddy? Turn them D's into C's, as it were.
Yes.
And get them up to take some of those kids that might just pass if they had a little bit of help in the red ledger. And we thought, Notre Dame's a hard university to get into, high standard of academics, high standard of athletics. When he goes down to LSU, he's going to kill it on the recruiting trail, and he's going to take those kids that might have gone to Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, who may not be to the same academic standard as a Notre Dame, Michigan, Ohio State, and he's gonna get those kids to come in, and he's gonna crush it down there at LSU. And he's sucked. Quite frankly, he's been miserable.
Yeah, I was gonna say he hasn't done as well as I think many thought he was going to do, or himself thought he was going to do.
Especially coming off a national championship.
Yeah.
It's pretty good benefit this year.
I mean, he did have Jalen Daniels. Obviously, Daniels is one of the may win Rookie of the Year.
Should win Rookie of the Year.
But that's the thing, and you were talking earlier, Bud, about Moore. When you lose talent like that, and I don't care what position it is, quarterback, offensive line, defense, whatever, you lose talent like that, it's very, very hard, unless you're Nick Saban, that you can replace that talent so fast, or Kirby Smart. You can replace that talent so fast. But at the end of the day, you're right. I think it's definitely harder to recruit kids in college than it is to sign NFL players, because, like you said, you come to the negotiation table, right? I want this much. Here's what we're going to offer you, and your agent goes, "Nah, we'll move on to the next team." And if you go away and then say, "Well, you know what? They offered that. If that's still offered, let's take that deal." I mean, I could say that.
Right.
I could say that for Baker Mayfield. He came here the year after Tom Brady hung it up. He bet on himself. He signed like a 1 year, $1.5 million contract, and now he's getting paid 10. So, like I said, you could take a gamble on yourself. Now, he could have failed, and I think if he would have failed miserably, he would have been a backup quarterback for the rest of his career. There's no way he would have gotten another signing or another, unless somebody majorly got hurt.
Somebody would have gotten hurt. Yeah,
right. For him to be get another opportunity to be a starting quarterback. And I will say this year, he saved us in a lot of games. Really. And actually, watching the Lions right now, the only loss they have is to the Buccaneers, which they weren't supposed to lose that game. Tampa went into that game as an underdog. they were not supposed to lose to the Lions or lose to the. I mean, the Bucks were not supposed to beat the Lions.
No.
That's not supposed to
Yeah,
happen.
no,
Right.
no. I
Um,
think the Lions were 9-point favorites going into that game.
yeah. So, and the Lions are up 17-7 at the half. But I mean, it comes down to I picked Detroit because I Detroit was my
So
pick.
did I.
We had what's his name on our show. I picked the Lions and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. When
Yeah.
it was all said and done, Chuck. When it was all said and done.
That was an interesting show.
But yeah. So
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, when you go college kids, the difference, and then also too, you may get a 1 or 2 star kid that was, hey, he's a 2-star. Okay, well, he
Mhm.
goes to a smaller school, and he's not a 2-star athlete. He's actually a 5-star
Yeah.
athlete, and he ends up turning heads. And then you have, the bigger schools because, like you said, NIL deals, and you got to have general managers now because, like Adam said, there's cash coming in. Somebody has to manage them. So that's the new way that the
future of football.
Football is going.
Yeah.
So sooner or later, all these schools are going to have somebody in that position, and it probably won't be the AD because the AD's got enough going on anyway. But it could,
No.
So
the AD has so much going on, and the head coach has so much going on in any given year that you really need a GM to manage the money because you have so many kids that are going to want different things, different amounts that are going to be worth more or less than what they might, and it's nice to have somebody who's a money manager be available. Unlike it's not just relying on a kid's mom and dad to negotiate a price, or a head coach to negotiate a price. Oh, we want Bryce Underwood, who just flipped to Michigan last week ahead of the Ohio State game, or actually is ahead of the Northwestern game, but that's neither here nor there. Being able to negotiate with him for a price, I've heard upwards of $12 million, but having a money guy that knows and understands the finances that Michigan has to work with over the next 4 or 5 years, depending on how long Bryce stays at school.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And speaking of Brian Kelly, getting a 5-star quarterback to flip from LSU to Michigan. I want to say, if nothing else, even if they had lost to Ohio State, that flip alone might have saved Sherrone Moore's job.
Yeah.
And personally, I thought he did a good job coaching with everything that they had lost. The patchwork offensive line, no real quarterback, converted linebacker to running back. Their 5-star number 1 recruit not being unseen all year was an outstanding coaching job. He beat USC. He beat Michigan State. He beat Ohio State. He got bowl eligible. Got the number one recruit in the country to flip. Got picked up another 5-star, a 4-star cornerback, a 5-star line tight end signed earlier this afternoon or yesterday. Everything that he's doing is pointed in the right direction. And when it comes down to it, 7-5 isn't great. It wasn't, should have beat Illinois, should have beat Indiana, should have beat Washington, should have been 10-2, really, in all honesty. But they had so many issues to work out that I'm not mad about it. We still beat State, and we still beat State, so that's all I care about. We beat the Michigan one and the Ohio one. And at the end of the day, Sherrone Moore is the first coach since Fitz Chrysler that's beat Michigan State and Ohio State in the same year as a first-year head coach. Bo didn't do it. Mueller didn't do it. Carr didn't do it. Harbaugh didn't do it. It's really
No.
an outstanding coaching job by Herman Moore, Jesus Christ, Sherrod Moore, to drag Ryan Day into the weeds and force him to get him out of what he wants to do, to get him away from the speed in space. Basketball and grass, as Sam Webb likes to say. And really force Ohio State to play to Michigan's strength, which was their defensive line. Try to get them to run it up the middle 26 times. Be able to have the speed on the outside to contain when they broke contain. And really in that third and really in the second half, be able to put the jaw, to bring the jaw, to close the jaws around Ohio State and strangle them out like Harbaugh did for the last 3 years with everybody. To just clamp down and never let go. As a Michigan guy, I kind of wear it on my shirt. I'm wearing it on both my shirts, so flashing the camera there, but
Yeah.
When it comes down to it at the end of the year, no worse than I thought they were going to do.
Have they announced what bowl game they're going to?
I have not heard yet. No, I think it'll be next Tuesday after the championship games. Where everybody ends up going.
Because USF has been announced they're going to the Hawaii Bowl against San Jose State on Christmas Eve.
Okay.
So, I mean, I would love to go to Hawaii to cover the game.
So would I.
That would be awesome, but it's very expensive to travel around this holiday coming up. It's not my dime. It's not my dime.
You don't think
for it. So I don't think I'll watch the game because it's on ESPN at 8:00 our time, and it's 3:00 their time because Hawaii's 5 hours behind us.
6 hours, 2:00.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll watch the game, and I told Ralph, I'm like, hey, I said it would be great to go to Hawaii, but I would need a flight back home on Christmas Day because I can't take the week off. So I would have to fly home on Christmas. And then, I mean, yes, Hawaii would be great to Christmas Day to wake up Christmas morning in Hawaii, but by yourself, no about that. No. I mean, I think I'd rather be with my family, and say Hawaii, later on with a girlfriend, wife, fiance, whatever.
Kids.
Yeah, stuff like that, later on in life. But yeah.
Like if you were a full credentialed member of the media that didn't have a day job to go back to on Monday. Sure,
correct.
Of course.
Yeah, that's a whole ball. Yeah, because I would just say, if that was my job, I'm there. I'm flying out.
Of course.
I'm going to Hawaii, and going to
fly out Tuesday, come back on Sunday.
Correct.
Spend the whole Christmas. Spend your whole Christmas in Hawaii. Screw the family. Even if you were single, even if as a single guy, if everything else was the same, but you were a fully credentialed FSU beat writer and not an independent who would be flying on Ralph's dime. It's hard, like we know which side of the toast our bread is buttered on. It's not like it'd be different if Ralph had hired us full time and we were being paid professional money to do this. We would be, of course, no problem to do it. It wouldn't be that big of a deal. But when we all have jobs to go to on Monday, it's hard to say, hey, I'll be there, because it's just not feasible.
Yeah, because
even if you had to pay for it out of
my own dime.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was going to say
would
I pay for it on my own? I don't have that kind of money.
Well, if you were a fully paid credentialed member of the media, like if Ralph's media empire took off and he was giving you $120,000 a year,
Yeah.
it wouldn't
Yeah.
necessarily be that big of a deal to drop $4 or $5 grand on a plane flight
Correct.
to go out to Hawaii.
Or $4 or $5 grand for the week to go on stay and yeah.
Just split costs. Like he pays for the flights and you like pay for the hotel. Like, okay,
Correct.
cool, I can do that. But being realistic here, we're not looking at we don't have $13.6 million contracts over the next 5 years. Yes, we did, but we currently don't. And it would solve a lot of problems around the studio.
Yeah.
We could have a studio.
Yeah.
And so I understand where you're coming from, asking Ralph to shell out that kind of money, especially for one day in Hawaii with a red eye, even if you weren't staying at a hotel, even if you just weren't staying at a hotel. If you were going to fly into the airport, get an Uber to the venue, go do your thing, and be on a flight back at midnight our time to be back in Florida. See, that would be about 6 a.m. on
5 or 6 a.m.
Yeah,
Christmas Day.
You gotta
with no sleep.
You're looking at. Well, you can sleep on the plane.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. 9 times out of 10, bud, that's probably what I would do. Being if I flew out Christmas Eve, got to Hawaii before the game, took an Uber right from the airport to the stadium, didn't even go to like you said, not going to a hotel, just going right to the stadium, covering the game, and then going back to the airport right after. Probably, once I got in the airport, I would probably try to stay awake. But once I got on the airplane, I'd pass out.
Probably, yeah.
Because I probably would set an alarm on my phone to wake me up like right before we land.
An hour.
Wake up and be
logical. Yeah, I would say what I would do if I was, because it's a 6 hour, so there's a 6 hour difference between Florida and Hawaii. So you could fly out at you could leave Florida at 11 a.m. You get to Hawaii at 11 a.m. Go to the stadium, get some food, sit down, get all your articles, get your stuff ready, start writing up your article, and then when the game's over, finish your article, go back to the hey, okay, text Ralph, it'll be done in an hour. Get out of the stadium, go back to the airport, get in the airport, get set up on the airport Wi-Fi, shoot Ralph off your finished article, board the plane, set an alarm for like an hour before the plane's intended to land, put on one of them little sleep masks, and sleep as much as you can on your way back to Florida. And honestly, what would happen is that if you did all of this, the game would go into 12 overtimes, and you wouldn't get out until 1 o'clock in the morning Hawaii time. Miss your connecting flight, and it'd be a whole mess. Or you'd have a connecting flight into Colorado, and they'd get a monster ice storm, and you'd be delayed in Colorado for 2 days. That's why I don't go back to Michigan at the holidays, because I'm just so afraid of getting stuck in an airport for 2 days.
Sure.
And missing a day, having to call off of work or be, or something, trying to get back here after going to see the family without money, without oodles and oodles of cash, where it wasn't that, or like if we were big time celebrity reporters and we had a full studio, and we could even if we rented a studio for the three of them, each of us rented a studio for Thursday night, and we just did we did the show from a studio or we had somebody come, Ralph set us up with people to come in and set up a studio for us, an in-home studio, where we could do this at where we were doing this, it wouldn't be so big of a deal. I could if we were just doing this one night a week, and we had cash to burn, I wouldn't mind going home, even especially because I wouldn't have a day job. it wouldn't be like I would miss 2 days of work because I was in Michigan during the holidays and it got snow or ice, or there was an ice storm in North Carolina, and now I can't. I flew out of Detroit, no problem, but now I'm stuck in North Carolina until the stupid ice storm passes, or Nashville, whatever,
Yeah, yeah.
or
I
the
mean, and
connecting flight
that's
might be.
me. I didn't even think about that, but too of having a connecting flight somewhere in the West or even in the Midwest, like
Yeah.
Missouri or
Yeah, Kansas. You could.
Tennessee. And again, that could happen too, where they have a snowstorm that day on Christmas Day, and your ass ain't going nowhere. You're stuck in the airport.
Well, you
And
could. You could with flying to Hawaii. You could have an ice storm in Boulder or Denver, and so they divert you to Phoenix. And then they have, okay, we're gonna get you on a connecting flight to Kansas City. Well, that ice storm that was in Boulder is now in Kansas City. So okay, we're gonna send you to Houston. Well, and they're gonna connect your flight to Nashville. Well, now that storm that was in Kansas City is now in Nashville, and now you can't get on a flight to Nashville. So now you got to fly to Charlotte, and then from there you can fly to Tampa Bay. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's not really worth it. And
it's really,
like I said, I know it would be
yeah,
great.
with the
Obviously, it'd be fantastic
yeah, of course,
to
it'd
have
be fantastic.
that experience on my resume to say,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah, of course.
I got to fly to Hawaii on Christmas Eve, covered the game, got back on an airplane, flew back to Florida, and got back to celebrate Christmas with my family. That would be great. But again, I
That
know
would
there's
kick
so many
ass.
variables
Yeah.
that can cause that not to happen. And it's just not worth it. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not.
especially on
No.
somebody else's dime.
Yeah. I mean, I have plans on Christmas Eve, but not anything that is going to keep me from not being able to watch the game in some capacity. Not maybe all of the game, but in some capacity, I will get to watch some of it.
Yeah, of course.
Like I said, there are two things that could happen. Like you said, one, either it'll go into 10 overtimes, or
Yeah.
all the way out to Hawaii and they get their butts kicked.
Yeah, they just get hammered.
Like 80-0.
Yeah.
So
Absolute ass wipe.
yeah, it would be
Yeah.
bad.
It could be just a miserable afternoon. You get
Mhm.
well. Here's the kicker. In Hawaii, it's raining, and it's miserable, and it's like 9 to 6. It's just a 9 to 6 dog, and it's absolutely miserable, and it's raining, and it's like the first time in Hawaii on Christmas Day it's below 16, 35 years,
Mhm.
and it's a cold, wet rain, and then that rain moves to Colorado when just about the time you're supposed to be getting into Colorado, so they have to divert down to Phoenix. And then you have to spend 8 hours in Phoenix waiting for a connecting flight to Houston because they didn't have anything flying out at that time.
Yeah. I mean,
and your
there's
your bags are on a
too many
different
variables.
flight. Yeah, you're on United 17, and your bags are on American 124. So your bags end up in Seattle.
Instead of Tampa. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
That's
now it's gonna be a week before you can get your luggage. Now, obviously, if you're only doing a 1-day trip, you probably wouldn't take anything with you in terms of like clothing or anything, because I would just.
Yeah, I probably would take a change of clothes, if that, with me.
I wouldn't even. And then I would just throw it in a backpack and just carry it on.
Yeah, because I have a backpack that I take with me to the games, so I would just throw the clothes in there, and toiletries obviously and stuff like that, and then fly.
I wouldn't even bother with toiletries. Maybe a toothbrush and some toothpaste.
Yeah,
if you're
well,
only going to be gone
that's
for
because you're only going to be gone for a few hours and then come back. Yeah,
yeah,
true.
Yeah.
quick
So,
turnaround. Yeah, no,
Well-
but especially with having somebody else having to fit the bill when they're not exactly made of money either, you know.
correct. Well, guys, do you want to call it a show there? We come back
Yeah.
next week.
All right.
Yeah, we'll
Go
come
ahead,
back
Lou.
next week, talk about the
Do
championship
your show.
games.
Yeah.
All right. And the sports show rolls on. Saturday, the last 2 shows of the year, by the way, this week and next week. So if you want to make your contribution, do so before next week. Well, of course, it's a big day in college football. We got the College Football Conference Championships this weekend. We'll start tomorrow, actually. We'll recap those
Okay.
games as long as Saturday and as well as Saturday evening games as well. We'll look at the bowl schedule. Some of the matches have already been announced, and some haven't. So we'll do the best we can. And remember, that's a two-parter. So we're not going to do all in the same week. I wouldn't have enough time to do that. If I did, I'd be nuts. Then again, I am nuts. That's another story. Yeah, I'll go there. Also, NFL, of course, with their predictions. MLS has the soccer championship this Saturday, so I'm going to cover that as well. I'll try maybe do a little play-by-play since my Red Bulls are in it. Thank you very much. Go Red Bulls. Although you're up against the LA Galaxy. Got some hot stove news, of course, coming up. Because now is the time of year we look at the wheeling and dealing in baseball. Yes, I am going to cover maybe the NBA Cup. I know you're thinking, why would you want to do that? Well, I'm going to do it anyway, like it or not. So there. We'll also cover because I also got some WNBA news as well, and I think Betty might be joining us on Saturday. I hope.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, Betty is the one brought me here. So, and of course, any UFC and WWE news, that'll be my co-host Steve Davidson because he's the expert on that. Someone was asking me earlier though, like you cover almost everything. Well, I haven't yet done pickleball. I'm gonna try working on it in 2025. I have not yet. Yeah. Yeah.
Pickleball
I cover a spectrum, but I have never covered pickleball yet. Sorry.
Yeah, pickleball is just for old fat white people that can't play tennis anymore.
Well, it is the origin of tennis. Yeah. Also have our regular features, the ridiculous time of the week. I think I just mentioned it. Oh boy. Your thoughts and comments, which are always welcome. Sports trivia. This week in sports history. The feel good story of the week. And remember, next week is the last week. Oh, we also got the monthly calendar of the events and the monthly scheduled standings. Next week, if those of you come, I'll do holiday wishes, which has been a tradition of the show since I started doing it. So if you got time on Saturday between 4 and 6 p.m. Eastern time, number of course is 512-543-4662. Again, 512-543-4662. As we're down to the last 2 shows of season 7. Well, for me, it's season 7.
Nice, Lou.
And what a ride it's been. It's not over.
Yeah.
I want to say, and this is in the last show for us. I think we have 2 more, or 3 more. Before
Something like that, yeah.
But it has been an interesting year with you guys. Thank you again. Before I go, the Lightning won 8-1. The hockey game, and I just got breaking news that the St. Pete Council approved the bond raised to build their stadium at Tropicana Field, which now that vote swings to the Pinellas County Commission. That'll be happening, I think, on the 17th, which again will be right around the time that we have a show. So yeah, the 19th would be that week. So I'm curious to see how it gets voted upon moving forward. We could talk about that next week too.
Does that mean not to cut you off, but just because curious minds want to know, mainly mine, does that mean that they got funding to rebuild the stadium?
I think, Bud, these bonds are to build the new one. So the financial bonds from the city of St. Pete. Again, if people out there don't know, the Rays do not play in Tampa, Florida. They play in St. Petersburg, Florida. and the city council in St. Pete voted for the bonds. Where they're having issues getting the bonds approved is Pinellas County, which is the county that the city of St. Pete sits in. Now, from the last I heard, it's going to cost like $56 million to fix the stadium. They've only
Uh-huh.
approved like 28 of that so far. So, but then again, the reason why everything is slow is there are people that lost
Pandemic.
houses and businesses and cars and
And lives
their lives. They need to get that all fixed before they can move money
before
around
they.
to help build a
Yeah.
new stadium. But I just saw
Right.
that pop up. But again,
Okay.
I want to thank our sponsors, thank the networks that we're on. We'll be back, guys, next week, same time, 8 o'clock p.m. Thanks to the men and women of our armed services and our first responders for all that you guys do. Thanks to these two gentlemen for making Thursdays awesome every week. Kind of the OG crew.
Yeah.
The last few weeks has been cool.
Keep it rolling on.
I do miss Gerald and Alex. Hopefully, Alex messaged me. He couldn't get on. I tried to send him the
Yeah.
link, but he couldn't get on. So
I tried to
hopefully
send him too.
he gets that straightened out. And I haven't heard from Gerald in about 2 months. I don't know if he's okay. Last I heard, he was in Kentucky. I don't know
Yeah.
what
He's
happened.
doing okay. He's getting better. He's
Okay, good.
starting to feel
Yeah.
better.
That's good news.
Yes.
I like to
Yeah.
hear good news.
I'll talk to you about that when we go off air.
Yeah.
But we'll see you guys next week. Until then, I am the sports nerd. This has been the Walker Report. Peace.
Cut, print, send it.
All right.